Breaking news at 11 with what appears to be dozens of federal agents suiting up and surging into the Portland metro.
If the federal government didn't come here to lend us a hand, then take a hike.
With the president pledging to crack down on political violence amidst concerns he could target peaceful protests.
But we're going to get out there and we're going to do a pretty big number of those people in Portland that are doing that.
Tonight, what appears to be a show of force from local leaders with pushback and a warning.
We don't want to create more chaos. We do not want to give any federal agent more incentive to say something is wrong in Portland.
As they pledge at the same time to stand firm against an ongoing immigration crackdown.
I want to say right now, they are wrong. Not only are they wrong, they are inhumane.
Good evening, David Molko with you on this Friday. We want to head right to a live look at the South Waterfront and Portland's ICE facility, which has been the site of near nightly protests for months, albeit on a small scale, and where we have seen federal officers sometimes clash with demonstrators. Right now, we're seeing what we call a pretty typical number of protesters with no agents visible, though about 20 minutes ago, we watched as federal officers with shields escorted a vehicle out of the facility. Again, fairly normal, if we can use that word, though it appears there were more officers coming out than usual. The president has zeroed in on this spot a handful of times, claiming without offering evidence that paid agitators and anarchists have been out and ruining the city. Now, speculation aside, and there is a lot of it swirling this evening, we want to run through what we've observed and what we know right now. Around 7 this evening, our photographer witnessed more than 50 SUVs filled with what appear to be federal agents loading up and leaving the Customs and Border Patrol office that is in Northeast Portland. They were in plain clothes and wore masks over their faces as they drove by. At the same time, over a dozen local leaders, including the mayor, county chair, a senator, and congresswoman, held a news conference saying they were observing, quote, signs of an increased federal presence. That said, Senator Jeff Merkley indicated he did not know which agencies they were with, how many were here, or critically, their purpose. Okay, that is the big picture. Let's get to live team coverage. Catherine Cook is live at the ICE facility along South McAdam. But first to Alma McCarty at the federal building downtown with what local leaders, both elected and in the community, are urging tonight. Alma?
Yeah, David, their message tonight at a press conference was loud and clear. Federal agents sent by the president may be here in Portland in force, but they do not want them here. They do not need them here, while also urging Portlanders not to take the bait.
This may be a show of force, but that's all it is. It's just a big show.
Inside a Northeast Portland church.
We have no tolerance for anyone in Portland who uses this difficult moment to hurt others or our home.
Leaders from the city, the county, and the state stood in solidarity.
I ask all community members to remain vigilant as you care for your neighbors and your loved ones. Let's not be baited by federal bullying tactics.
Together, calling an influx of federal agents sent to Portland an unneeded overreach and an attempt to sow chaos within the city.
A desperate excuse to bring conflict and chaos to Portland that would be used to justify further escalation.
Well, I want to be very clear. I see no operational, I see no legal reason for any federal agents or increase in federal agents to be on the streets of Portland.
We want safe, locally governed communities, and we will stand together peacefully and resolutely against any attempt to take that away.
Portland pastors also joining the press conference, condemning efforts at division.
And to the President of the United States, please back off. Go back and let us be. We love each other.
Stand against evil and stand against hate and stand against division.
Protesters who've been outside the ICE facility in South Portland for months say they've dealt with aggression from federal agents.
You showed up here to look like a show of force, but you haven't been jack for the community.
And interrupted Friday's news conference with some strong words for city leaders.
They are showing support now because they know we can no longer be ignored, because we have made enough noise that it is making them look bad. That is why they're finally starting to show up.
Well, when asked about how Portland police could respond, the mayor basically said that if there is any violence, if there is any vandalism, then officers will act. However, as per city policy, they will never work with any federal agents on any federal immigration actions. We, of course, reached out to the Bureau and to the police chief for a comment, and we haven't heard back yet. David, back to you.
Yeah, worth noting that they have been silent tonight. Alma McCarty downtown. Thanks, Alma. So the question tonight, what is this all about? Well, we have a couple of clues. One, a presidential memo the mayor mentioned this evening. I have it right here, to coordinate a national strategy to prevent and crack down on political violence. The other, a pledge by Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem to up security at all federal facilities and detention centers across the country following the shooting at the ICE facility in Texas. Though at this point, it is not clear if either of those directives are behind the response we are seeing in Portland tonight. Here is Noem from earlier this week.
And we have been focused on making sure that our ICE officers have the ability to operate safely. In fact, they've seen 1,000% increase in violent attacks against them from city to city and across this country. And so we know that we have an opportunity here to make sure that we not only can support them, but also to have their backs when they're out there in many of these cities. And individuals and politicians, senators, governors are demonizing them, that we have the opportunity to tell the truth about the work that they do, that what these law enforcement officers doing, they're upholding the law.
Well, the secretary also went on to defend ICE officers that she says are treating everybody appropriately and doing their work in a, quote, fair and balanced way. All right, let's go now to Catherine Cook live at the ICE facility in South Portland. Catherine, we kind of have to thread the needle here between showing what is happening and making sure what we see is not merely performative for our cameras. Give me a sense of what's going on right now and if there appear to be any additional federal agents where you are.
Yes, David, there are additional federal agents, but nothing that out of the ordinary. Again, we saw about twice as many federal agents on foot as usual, coming out to escort federal vehicles in and out of the ICE facility. There are also protesters here, but that is certainly not out of the ordinary at all. We haven't seen any kind of clashes here tonight. Just about, I'd say, upwards of maybe 50 or so protesters scattered around the outside of the federal ICE building. All of this, though, happening the day after lawmakers toured the ICE facility, hoping to find answers. During a tour of Portland's ICE facility Thursday, Oregon's Democratic delegation asked federal officials for clarification around policies.
They sat down in a conference room to answer our questions. Our point is this. The president says he wants to remove violent, undocumented individuals. We're all down on that.
What Senator Jeff Merkley's not down on? Federal agents arresting nonviolent people, which he believes is happening. Senator Ron Wyden fears detainees are not getting due process.
I was particularly troubled yesterday by the fact that lawyers weren't getting fair access to represent their clients, and I'm going to be working to change that.
Also Thursday, President Trump criticized Portland yet again.
When you go out to Portland and you see what's happening in Portland, this is like nobody's ever seen anything like it. Every night, and this has gone on for years. They just burned the place down, and you know, the shop owners, most of them have left, but the few shops that are open, they just use plywood and just like 3/4 inch plywood. They don't put storefronts because they know it's going to be burned down.
This is Trump making up stuff.
He is trying to project an image to justify forces that he can roll in to create chaos and then justify further authoritarian actions.
The question late Friday night is, will those actions include an influx of federal agents at the ICE facility? And if so, what will their mission be? None of it seems clear. Back live in South Portland, protesters here have long called for the complete shutdown of this ICE facility, but Merkley and other lawmakers today said it should stay open. Their reason? It would keep detainees from going straight to the ICE facility in Tacoma and improve their chances at getting a fair due process. Back to you.
Well, it's safe to say we are all in search of some clarity tonight. Thanks, Catherine. Appreciate reporting. Stay safe out there. Stay with KGW, of course, for continuing coverage of what appears to be a federal law enforcement surge. Though, as we mentioned, There are a lot of questions. We'll have updates as they come in on KGW.com, on our mobile app, and of course our free TV streaming app. That is KGW+. Let's get to other headlines now. Developing tonight, one person has died following a small plane crash in Clark County. The single-engine aircraft, a Cessna 172, was trying to land when it went down just after 1 this afternoon at a small airstrip north of Battleground. That plane burst into flames, but crews were able to put out the fire and keep it from spreading to nearby trees and homes. Early indications are the plane was registered to someone in Klickitat County, though the pilot has not been publicly identified. The NTSB telling us they have an investigator headed to the scene to try and determine what went wrong and, if necessary, to make safety recommendations. New tonight, we are hearing from the family of a girl who drowned in Fairview Lake this week. They say 5-year-old Aradia Bates ran out of her home Tuesday morning and ended up in the water. That's when one of her parents jumped in to try to save her. Her mother telling us Aradia was full of joy and kindness.
She was someone who just reminded me to stay in the present and really soak in every moment. She had just these eyes that pulled you in, and her smile and her laugh was just from the belly.
We appreciate her talking to us. A GoFundMe has been set up to help the family with funeral expenses. You can find a link in our article. It's up now on KGW.com.